And as a senior leader in the opposition politics, don't you see MDC alliance members as people that can come and add value to the opposition politics? Is it possible for you, MDCT, to work together with MDC Alliance? I mean, to sit down on the same table, iron out your differences and say, this is what we want.
Actually, I get disappointed by people that hate each other because of political diversity. It is natural, it's normal that people have different diversity. In politics, you don't have to create enemies because you've got political differences. You don't have to be enemies because you've got political difference. For an example, I must not be seen hating Nelson Chamisa myself, or Nelson Chamisa hating Morgan Komichi. No, that must not happen, and I don't expect that. And I look at that as being quite immature. When you are political mature, you're politically mature, you cannot do that. We must not hate each other because of the political differences. Therefore, my call to the opposition political parties, we are not enemies at all. We are actually friends who would happen to come from different groupings. And as opposition political parties, we must actually work together. We must actually sit down together, plan together, and be able to identify our common opponent, and we must build up a strategy to make sure that how do we bring change to Zimbabwe. But that's all what we are aiming at. Whether you are an MDCT or you are an MDC Nelson Chamisa, you want to bring change to Zimbabwe, positive change. And as long as we are fighting among ourselves, the change that we want to bring will never be positive at all. It will actually be negative, both will undermine each other. But if we work together as opposition political parties and share strategies, share programs, share everything, we can actually move miles far much ahead of what we are doing at the moment. Probably the experience that I can try to share with you is how we handled the 2018 elections. We were not friends at all. Morgan Changirai and Tendai Beat and the they were not friends at all. They were actually, they once hated each other to the bone. But because they looked at the bigger picture, what they wanted to achieve was to bring change to Zimbabwe. And they said, if we come together in a group our political parties, we'll be able to score more votes. That is why we got more than 2 million votes. Because the people that were supposed to have voted for Welshman Ngue and voted for Tendai Beat ended up voting for Morgan Changirai. People that were supposed to vote for Jacob Ngarivome and Mtambara of Zimbabwe people were first, ended up voting for Morgan Changirai. And by nature, by virtue of being united, it gave the people of Zimbabwe the confidence, the general public, the confidence that these women and men were serious to bring change to Zimbabwe. So what they did is people from churches, from vendors, from many other civil society organizations developed confidence in this arrangement, and they voted in big numbers. They voted for MDC Alliance as an electoral pact. So this is what we did before, and we're saying if we had done this before, why can't we not do the same thing in the coming elections? What is it that Nelson Chamisa will lose if he talks to Douglas Mwonzora, and vice versa? And if they really want to save the people of Zimbabwe, they must talk to each other. They must find each other as leaders. Leaders are there for the people, not for themselves. Really, whatever differences they had, as far as I'm concerned, are quite. They are not important at all. Those differences can be ironed out, and I would like to urge President Mwonzora and President Nelson Chamisa and many other political parties to come together and form a united front, which will be able to go to an election in 2023, with a reasonable challenge. At the moment, I'm very much disappointed because we are showing personal interest, individual interest, which will cost the people of Zimbabwe. We want to unite as opposition political parties, and we must not be ashamed of talking about unity. We must be proud when you are a leader and you stand in front of the people and you talk about unity. You must be proud about that, because this unity will serve the interests of our youth. Our youth have suffered in this country in terms of unemployment. The economy is not picking up, it's not growing because of economic crisis and challenges. The women are suffering better. Look at it. We've got nearly 95% of unemployment in this country. And where do you expect the people to get a living? All other economic sectors are suffering. Look at the council, self-delivered is very, very, very poor, because with the revenue where the councils are supposed to get revenue from, which are the rates, people are not employed. And look at it now with COVID. People cannot even sell their goods because of the COVID conditions and restrictions. And these are challenges that any leader in your normal sense must think about, must feel about it. That you are not there for yourself, you are there for the people of Zimbabwe. So if you have identified the problem, which I have identified myself, that opposition political parties have split, and the fact that they've split, they will not produce any result. They will provide the challenge, yes, of course, I know. There are some people that feel that they will provide the challenge, but that challenge will be very, very, very material, because it will be quite a small challenge as far as I'm concerned. I've been in politics for a long time, and I've been in organizing department for a long time. I know what I'm talking about. I know. I don't want to lie to myself. If you want to develop a strategy, you must first of all accept your weakness. And splits, divisions among opposition parties is a major, major weakness for opposition political party in Zimbabwe.
Yes. So, you work with President Douglas Mwonzora. What is his sentiments towards uniting, or not uniting as such, but sitting down with Nelson Chamisa politically and say, let's build the opposition and make a formidable force?
I'm quite sure you know very well that President Douglas Mwonzora at the funeral of our late Senator Java Rambana Pass, one of the messages that he outlined there was that Nelson Chamisa, my friend, let's come together and work together for the benefit of the Zimbabwean slaves, livelihoods. He said that. He's already outlined that. Otherwise, I'm just repeating what he said. So he is for the idea that we must sit down and talk. This is for the idea that we must form a platform that will be able to make us win elections in come 2023. He has no doubt about it. There's no challenge about it. I mean, he's quite prepared to do that. We are, as a party, prepared to talk to any other political party. We are prepared to work with any other civil society organizations. We are prepared to work with churches. We are prepared to work with anyone who is interested in bringing change to Zimbabwe. We are prepared to work with. We want a collective approach to this challenge that we are facing in Zimbabwe. We are not going to be selfish at all. We learned this from our late President Mwonzora, that he was a unifier. He was a unifier. He always wanted to work with others. He was not selfish in his approach to the political challenges in Zimbabwe. So we are his products, and we are his students, and we'll do exactly what Mwonzora was doing.
Let's go to the national dialogue, Pollard. Your stance is MDCT previously, and probably now, is you are not going to join the grouping until certain conditions are met, or some of the things that you want to be included in that grouping are done. What is it exactly that you think should be done for you to join that grouping and also sit down on the same table with President Emmerson Mnangagwa for the benefit of ordinary Zimbabweans?
What probably admit is that I'm a proponent of national dialogue, and my president again is a proponent of national dialogue as well. I think you've seen how much he has talked about the national dialogue in our media. He is actually the #1 proponent of the national dialogue, because we believe that the political and economic crisis in Zimbabwe can only be resolved through a national dialogue. This we've learned from our past experiences. We've had the ZANU-ZAPU conflict of the 1980s, which ended up with the Unit Accord of 1987. We've had our ZANLA-ZIPRA fight with the Rhodesian forces, which ended up with the Longest House Agreement. We've had the MDC Changirai versus Mugabe conflict of 2008, which ended up with the GNU. And this is where we are learning these lessons from. That whenever there is a conflict of this magnitude, the people of the actors must meet and resolve those particular issues that we do believe in. Yes, of course, there are efforts that are being put in place efforts that are there, like Pollard is an effort. We are not against Pollard. We don't want to condemn it, or we don't want to but we are saying let us be allowed as well to put our input, and we believe that because we are positive about dialogue, and we are positive about bringing change to Zimbabwe, and we are positive about making sure that Zimbabwe has got peace, we do expect the authorities that are there, the authorities that are there today, to give us an ear. We don't want to really attack each other on social media, or we don't want to expose each other or to expose the weaknesses of Pollard on social media. I don't expect that to be the best thing, because we don't want to appear as if we are condemning the efforts that have been done by the president of Zimbabwe. He has done quite a lot. He's done quite great in terms of establishing Pollard. I think his intentions are good, but let us be given also the chance to explain what we think we can do to improve. The idea is to improve the national dialogue mechanics or a platform. Let us share what we think it has gone wrong with Pollard, and let us share it with what we think if we do this and that, the outcome of the dialogue will be beneficial to the people of Zimbabwe. So we got ideas that we want to discuss with the authority. We are not confrontational in our approach as MDCT. We are more of a dialoguing team as MDCT, so the authority must not be afraid or must not shy away to say, okay, if you've got good ideas about how we can improve our negotiating platform, please let's meet. We are prepared to do that.
And going forward to the 2023 elections, what is MDCT, what have you started to do as a party in preparing for the general elections?
Before we go there, let me also talk about what I think about the national dialogue.
Okay.
The national dialogue should not be between MDCT and ZANU-PF. We don't believe in that, because that's a selfish approach. Because the challenges that we are faced with in this country are affecting everybody. The challenges that we are faced with in Zimbabwe are not only affecting political parties, they are affecting all citizens of various natures. And citizens are grouped in various platforms, as churches, as vendors, as civil society organizations, as the labor movement, and many others, political parties and so forth. We want this dialogue to include all that. So it must be an inclusive type of a dialogue, which is going to cover the interests of all those people, the political parties. And this dialogue, we must be cognizant that ZANU-PF is a key element of the dialogue. So we must be, people of Zimbabwe must be prepared to sit down with ZANU-PF unconditionally, so that at least we can resolve the issues that are affecting Zimbabwe. Agreed, the economy in this country needs a dialogue. Agreed, the political crisis in Zimbabwe requires dialogue. And electoral reforms, we cannot be at this particular stage having not even agreed on any single electoral reform. Yet we are left with hardly 2 years to a national election of 2023. We have had challenges of the 2020 to 2018 outcome elections, because we felt the electoral reforms were not enacted. So electoral reforms cannot just come from street fights, media shouting, and all sorts of things. The electoral reforms will come from a negotiated settlement, and we must be prepared. We must urgently. This is an urgent matter. We must have an urgent action to make sure that the dialogue to deal with electoral reforms is put in place. Some are suggesting that we can approach SADC, approach AU, approach local leaders in Zimbabwe. Let us use everything that we can actually be able to make use of, to give confidence to both actors or to all sides. We need to have a dialogue. I personally, we can have a dialogue from our Zimbabwe eminent people, leaders here in Zimbabwe. We've got people that can actually come together. For example, I suggest church leaders combined with business leaders, combined with civil society leaders, and actually make a platform in which you can push and force for a dialogue to talk about electoral reforms. Those are the issues that we need to do, and it must be inclusive of everybody. And I want to directly call upon political leaders such as President Douglas Mwonzora, President Chamisa, and many other political leaders that are there in this country to take leadership positions and to take leadership decisions and to make sure that they are there for the people.